Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are getting to our third episode of the Snake Oil Salesman series. Before we do, brief disclaimer, everything that we cover throughout the entirety of this series you're going to see right there in the description box. So should you like to do a deep dive on the subject, you absolutely should be able to go ahead and do so. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity, and some of the topics we cover on this channel can be particularly triggering. So if you got a child that is 16 and younger and they're watching this, parental supervision very much advised, alright? Now, we're going back to where we left off last Sunday. If you all remember, we're kind of going over a little bit of the history of the traveling medicine show, which is very important when you're kind of really studying the history of faux medicine or pseudoscience, as it were, because it really all does tie back in. So, and it also influences very heavily how not just pseudoscience, but even how some pharmaceuticals are sold these days. So, let's go ahead and jump back into the history where we left off last time, shall we? Alright, remember we're talking about the person that came up with Hardicol. Or Hadicol. This is all pretty amazing when you consider that Hadicol was marketed as medicine. Somebody needs to write the Lipitor Boogie. One reason for Hadicol's prolonged popularity may have been the 12% alcohol that it contained. A good majority of the faux medicines out there, and some of the regular ones, contained alcohol back in the day. Just like Coca-Cola got their name because there used to be actual Coke in it. You can actually look that up, I'm not kidding. A lot of stuff that was peddled for medicine had substances in it. Let's just put it that way. Alcohol was a staple ingredient in patent medicine tonics from the beginning, which explains why people often felt better after taking them. Cheers. In fact, you'll find some tinctures now. I get tinctures constantly, particularly valerian root, chamomile, and I have both kava tea and the kava tincture that I use as well. And a lot of them have an alcohol base. Now you can get them nowadays where they don't any longer contain alcohol, but even now they still use that and some of that type of stuff with, peddling herbs and things of that nature. Let me go ahead and continue here. However, LeBlanc asserted repeatedly that the alcohol was used merely as a preservative and that if one followed the directions on the bottle, he or she would feel nothing in the way of a buzz. Paraphrasing here. Nonetheless, Hadicol was about as alcoholic as wine. And let's be honest here. Even with cough medicines like NyQuil now, granted, they don't have the alcohol levels we're talking here. But you can still taste it. There's still a weird kind of little bit of a kind of brief buzzy feeling. If you take that first shot of liquid NyQuil when you have a cold or flu, you can still taste that. You can still feel that. I know, because that's what it does to me every time. Dayquil. Oh my god. Dayquil gets me higher than a damn kite. I can't explain why. But, different subject entirely. I tend to stay away from Dayquil at all costs. Okay? It makes my autistic brain fog look absolutely manageable in comparison. So, suffer in the day, get medicine at night. Anyways, But a lot of them used alcohol as a base. It was a very, very calming thing. Let me get back to where we left off here. The other, probably more significant reason for Hadacal's success comes from the fact that LeBlanc, from the beginning, knew the value of the testimonial. People believed vivid stories from other everyday folk over scientific evidence, and testimonials were and still are an effective way to get around government restrictions on false claims. They even do it now. If you ever watch YouTube on your main TV, as I do, you'll see some of these websites, usually coming out of Asia, and they will have those testimonials. They'll tell you it is just booming all over TikToks, and a lot of them can do some pretty decent deep fakes. And yeah, they still do that. Places like Amazon, one of their big draws is the fact that on any item you can pull up the reviews. Wayfair does it. Just about everybody does. Whether you're peddling faux cures or whether you're running a legitimate business. It's been a big thing ever since this time period in regards to advertising. So, let me continue. If a person who used a tonic claims that it cured his or her cancer, the manufacturer can use the testimonial without actually making the claim. LeBlanc received a good many of his testimonials by way of free samples sent to people along with a form that they were requested to fill out on how Hadacal helped them. This, again, is something that businesses still do. I don't know if you ever heard of Secret Shopper. I know when I worked for Wayfair, they did have a particular program where if you shop there relatively often, you may be selected to be part of, they didn't call it this, but I call it a focus group, where you're able to choose from a list of items about once or twice a month that you would be able to receive for free as long as afterwards you took a picture of it and did a review. Probably similar with places like Amazon you can do it or not do it, but places like Walmart, all those places, that's still very common. The label on Hadacal bottle only made vague claims about being useful for nervousness, indigestion, insomnia, and other minor ills. You know, alcohol, I can tell you this, one of the main reasons I became such an alcoholic so damn quickly was because it did help with a lot of the issues that comes from the not so fun side of being autistic, the nervousness, the dislike of peopling, you know, being around too much sensations, too much at once, being able to not sleep because of leg issues. And I drank heavily to help with that nervousness, to help with that anxiety, to help overcome my dislike of peopling. I mean, part of the large part of going out to see the bands, granted there's some awesome bands downtown in my city here, but you get what I'm saying. The people sent in testimonial upon testimonial attesting to the miraculous powers of Hadacal. I have noticed that there has become an effect where there's too many people saying that this is just a great miraculous cure. People start eyeballing it with suspicion. So although it's a good tactic, you gotta handle it right. Otherwise, people are going to be looking at you and thinking that I bought like a small electric car for $38 and I'm pretty much sure I'm going to end up with a rubber chicken. Alright. Let us continue here. LeBlanc was able to turn Hadacal from a successful regional product worth about $60,000 a year into a booming national enterprise By 1949, Hadacol was bringing in $24 million a year, but alas, good things must eventually come to an end. In 1951, LeBlanc had become something of legend. However, by September of that year, his company was $8 million in debt, much to the chagrin of investors. LeBlanc was eventually forced to sell the company for $250,000. 10 years after the decline of Hadacol, LeBlanc insisted in an interview with the reporters that it was a very, very meritorious product. Who is to say that people weren't helped for those elements? The doctors, who can believe them? No, my friend, there is still much that is not known about nutrition. If that sounds familiar to you folks, that is the tone of a huckster and a very bad used car salesman. If you're trying to sell something with too much desperation, people will turn away from it. Which is why I was particularly bad at doing sales, because the more my numbers were not adding up, the more desperate I became. And the customers can sense that. It's almost like an animal instinct, you know? So, yeah, anybody who's like, you can't believe the doctor's over me who's selling you the medicine? I'm a businessman selling a medicine. They are medical doctors. Come on now, it's not that hard to connect the dots. Why would anyone selling a medicine tell you to stay away from a doctor? Let's use our thinking caps, folks. If it looks like a scam, smells like a scam, and sounds like a scam, it's a scam. Alright, let me see how much we got here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish up with this one, folks. We're almost finished up with it. Alright, so this one, the end of Hadacol may appear to have signaled the end of the Great Medicine Show. But if you look, you can see that it's actually thriving these days. Despite advances made by health scientists over the last 6 decades, the health and wellness industry is thriving on questionable claims that are shrouded by fancy presentations, testimonial evidence, support from the pseudo-medical communities, as well as flat-out fraud. If you look at modern commercials, it's easy to see that the medium has changed, but the tactics are the same, which is exactly what I was mentioning. The examples of medicine show Dudley LeBlanc and Hadacol show that the tactics used by con artists and pseudoscientists have not changed much over time, because they still work. We still believe that testimonials given by anti-establishment everyday folk are sufficient evidence to support claims. I do not. I never have, but I'm autistic. What can you expect? I'm also from the show me state. Show me. Oh, you can't? Don't trust the doctors? Big Pharma, the boogeyman, right? Well, aren't you trying to peddle your fake cure off of Big Pharma's back? You sowing mistrust in regards to Big Pharma, you are using as one of your biggest selling points. Why is that? Why should I mistrust them in order to accept your product? Your product works or it doesn't. If you're trying to sow discord, there's a reason for it. It's probably because it's a scam. Just saying. Let me get back to where we were here. Hype and fallacious appeals to authority are used commercially more often than solid evidence. Appeals to authority is also used in debate on social media, trolling, and everywhere else. It is the most oldest and condescending freaking tool in the troll toolbox that I've ever been forced to deal with. God, it gets on my last nerve. You have no idea. It is ironic that modern charlatans will spend a huge amount of energy berating the scientific community for keeping the truth away from the public and clouding the facts with too many difficult to understand details. Yet the minute there is a shred of scientific sounding evidence to support their claim, the word scientifically proven, clinical studies show, and other phrases that make it sound to the public like a person in a white lab coat has proven their claim show up all over labels, commercials, and print ads. The effectiveness of these claims indicate that most of us actually do respect science but may be uncertain as to how it works or even intimidated by it. I am neither or. Doctors say. Which doctors? What medical practice are they from? Are they from a research facility? Did they perhaps trust it against a placebo? See, that's my autistic ass, and a lot of reason why it was difficult for me to make friends as a kid. Because I'm going to fact check everything. 9 out of 10 doctors agree. Who's those 9 doctors? Who do they work for? What is their specialty? Is their specialty in an area that has to do with the medicine you are peddling? Am I able to actually hear it from their own mouth? Are they known in pseudoscience circles? Are they friends of any scammers? Any connections to Age of Autism? Yeah, I'm sorry, I got questions. And that may seem annoying and obnoxious to a lot of people. But the reason why I do it is so I don't get taken in. We all too often are just willing to believe whatever we hear on TV or online at face value when 9 times out of 10 it's usually a scam. If anything looks too good to be true, it usually is. And I would encourage more people to fact check any kind of medication, anything that's being peddled. But doctors and some agree. Okay, which doctors? Oh, you're not going to tell me? You're not even going to tell me what type of medicine that they are into practicing? Then why should I hold their opinions relevant? I don't even know if the doctor says that saying it's miraculous is actually someone that's an expert in that particular field of medicine, or if he's a goddamn dentist. Yeah. We need to start reteaching our society to ask questions again. To stop taking things at face value. To stop letting these political people play us all off each other like pawns while they make for power grabs behind our back while we're distracted with one another. We gotta learn to start looking deeper and stop being so damn gullible. And by the way, neurotypicals, if my autistic ass is telling you to stop being gullible, you have fallen off somewhere. For real. Alright, we're going to read this last part of it here. Exacerbating the problem is that when we are eager to believe in something, some charlatan merely has to tell us what we want to hear, contrive some evidence to back up the claim, and then wait for the financial return. If I could get back all the money I have given over to ideas that I really wanted to believe that turned out to be implausible or impossible, I'd be in a higher tax bracket. Same. Granted, it was teachers that ended up not working for me, but you get what I'm saying. Alas, I have lived and I have learned. The goal of this post and of this blog is to foster a little scientific skepticism about health-related marketing claims. While LeBlanc's assertions about Hadacol were mostly harmless in their nature, it is important to remember that not all fraudulent claims are harmless. Imagine a cancer patient who decides to forego scientifically verified therapies in favor of an unproven natural therapy, then dies because he did so. This may be an extreme example, but it never has to happen as long as we approach information like this with a critical mind. Exactly. Part of the reason I've been doing these series the way I have been is we've got to start teaching society across the board and on every subject to start asking questions again, to start digging deeper again, to stop just taking what people say at face value and running with it anymore. Because take a look around you. This world is tearing itself into shreds right now. If we ever want to get within a centimeter of where we were before all the madness began to rain down this year, we have got to stop being so damn gullible and start asking questions again. Start researching again. Start reading again. And even get off our screens more often. And I say this as one of the most guilty offenders of that. We're going to go ahead and close out on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time, so please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments, and make sure that you are also still set up to receive notifications. We're going to be coming back next Saturday with another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole, and next Sunday with a 4th episode of the Snake Oil Salesmen series. We don't want you to miss anything. I do appreciate your time, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea absolutely do. Hope you have a good one. I will see you all next weekend. Bye-bye, everyone.